Discovered his great-uncle's history and traced him to an air crash in Compton Verney. It's true, it's a brilliant story. It'll drop your jaw later. But now, though, phoning is where we begin. Now, 875 65 200, and the one story on everybody's lips is IKEA. Just what on earth are we going to do with that massive space?
The place you live,
the stories you share.
BBC, Coventry and Warwickshire.
Good morning, it's 9 o'clock on Wednesday the 5th of February with the latest news. Here's That is Harry Styles, Adore You, BBC Coventry and Warwickshire. New from him, it's 10:15. Now then, as we head towards the big VE Day commemorations a little bit later on in the year, lots of stories sort of popping up everywhere about World War II, like they did when there was the 100th marking of the end of First World War a couple of years ago. I think we take an interest, don't we, in seeking out those people's stories, particularly when they're members of our family. Now, Brock Kirby lives in Canada, but he found out that his great-uncle was stationed here during the Second World War, and in fact discovered that his great-uncle was an airman who had died. His name was Stuart Kirby. He was based at Wellesbourne, but his plane came down over Compton Verney, killing all the men on board. The story's been made into a documentary with the help of Wellesbourne Airtime Museum. This is part of the film, and it starts with a letter sent to his granddad from Stuart.
November 14th, 1941, still having a good time, not doing much.
Kitch Kingdon and I billeted in a fine room in a private hotel. Bath, water, and fireplace. A grand life for sure. The weather here is misty and foggy, and everything is still green and pretty. Here are a few snapshots of England. Best wishes, Stu.
Took off from Wellesbourne, England. That was one of the training bases there where he was training Canadian pilots and also other Commonwealth airmen. So they were on a training exercise, and so at 0100 hours, the plane, Wellington bomber HE-218, suffered engine failure, and results of that was they couldn't make it back to base and they couldn't land in a safe area.
There you go, the last moments of his great-uncle described by Brock, who joins us on the line now. Good morning to you, Brock. What was it that that first sparked your interest in your great-uncle?
Well, it started from an early age. Our family is very intrigued in our family history. We have a lot of roots, but we had this middle tin with his medals in it, and from a young age I've always had inquiries about it. And then in grade 8 I was tasked with a project to write a biography or write about a hero, and I kind of started digging into my family history, so that kind of started from that.
So it was a school project that sort of tasked you, and how much did you know?
There was like stories here and there, but with the advancement of technology like Ancestry and Google, that kind of really helped my search to find out more information.
And off you went on this voyage of discovery. What was that like?
Oh, it was unreal to be able to kind of fill in the gaps and also kind of figure out the story, to solve the inquiry about his final resting place, and
And to have a real sort of hero in the family must have been quite the discovery, and that sort of, you've expanded that now and sort of turned it into a real project.
Absolutely, in a sense, it was an unknown hero, so be able to search up his roots and kind of figure out of what task he actually completed. So that was kind of mind-blowing.
It's so sad listening to that letter that we just heard a few moments ago, because I mean, it must have been tough and scary for the airmen. What an adventure they must have felt like they were on, to be, thousands of miles away from home in a strange and beautiful country, only for it to end so tragically.
Exactly, and he served in the Middle East before instructing pilots at Wellesbourne. So he had 9 months in the desert, and he suffered a plane crash there as well. And he was in the desert for 48 hours before making it back to their desert air base. So he had a bit of a scary trip before that. So in a sense, after that big ordeal, he got sent back to England to train pilots, and was sent to Wellesbourne to train new airmen.
Because there was a huge.
Canadian.
So I was going to say there was a huge air base there. There were, the RAF was there, and also airmen from around the world, and he was there.
Yeah, the Commonwealth.
Yeah. So he was there specifically to train Canadian airmen.
It was the operational unit, so they were targeting Rommel's movements in the Middle East, and they were bombing their shipping and their harbors, and basically were sent to eliminate the advancement of the Axis powers.
So tell me what happened to your uncle then.
So basically, his propeller fell off, and they were on a nighttime raid, and they're running on the one engine for an hour, and they turn on their bottom lights and realize they're only 5 feet off the ground.
Oh.
And he said in a letter that he'd never prayed so hard in his life, and basically they crash landed in the desert, and where they were was the front lines 2 weeks prior.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they managed to make it back to base, and basically he was sent back to England.
And so he came here, and then he must have thought he was safer doing training. What happened to him when he got here? How was he killed?
So he was on another training exercise in Darlington engine field, and the plane resulted in a dive, and this was his second flight of the night. And the plane crashed due to the engine failure, and resulting taking 4 Canadian lives out.
Wow, that's horrifying, isn't it? Listen, we'll talk some more to you in just a mo. Thank you very much indeed for now to Brock, and also we know that the story has been pieced together with the help of those at Wellesbourne Airtime Museum. We'll be having a chat with them as well in a few mo's. First of all, enjoy this by John Paul Young. Warwickshire. What a lovely tune. It is 25 past 10. We'll have a travel update for you in just a mo. First, though, we're going towards, aren't we, the big anniversary of VE Day in May. And I suppose it opens up all of our minds to World War II and the big effect, the huge effect, and the huge role we had to play right here. And especially for those family members who were involved. We heard just a few moments ago from Brock Kirby in Ontario, in Canada, who is with us. Good morning, Brock, telling us all about his great uncle who was killed in an air crash, a training crash, just outside Wellesbourne, Mountford, during the Second World War. Now, the story has been pieced together by Brock with the help of Jason Dugmore from Wellesbourne Wartime Museum. Good morning, Jason.
Morning.
Good morning. There are many stories, aren't there, of the Second World War that are sort of well known, and we tell the tales often. How well known is this story?
Not very well known at all. I think what happens at the OTUs, the operational training units, tends to get forgotten about. I mean, we had 315 airmen killed during the war, just in training.
Just in training?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wellesbourne was probably the biggest OTU in the country at the time.
So they were all. So it adds up. It stacks up that there would be a high percentage of deaths, I guess. I didn't realise it was so busy at Wellesbourne. Why was Wellesbourne so important strategically?
It's where the crews, once they learned how to fly into the navigation, they actually came together as a crew for the first time here. And then they were taught how to act as a crew and learn to work together before they got sent on then to the squadrons or a conversion unit onto different aircraft.
Wow. And were you familiar with this accident before you spoke to Brock?
I'll be honest, I wasn't familiar with this actual accident, no. I mean, because there's so many. I mean, we've got 2 books published and they're all full with how many crashes there have been. So I wasn't, this particular one, no, I wasn't. And when it was 4 years ago this week that he actually came to me with it, and that's when it all started.
And it's taken 4 years to get to this point. I mean,
Yeah.
Brock, what's it been like for you to find all this out? Because, you mean, you've not just found information, you've found photos and things like that as well.
It's been an exceptional journey connecting with people all across the world and essentially meeting or communicating through messenger with Jason and him being able to kind of fill in some of the gaps and also kind of give these guys a story and also preserving the history. And it's the great tribute what Jason is doing at the museum and also for all the other families that were affected by death resulting from the training.
I mean, we did, Jason. I confess, I had no idea that you were even there, and I've been up loads of times to poke around the Vulcan and what have you. So, would it be okay if we sort of came to see you and found out a little bit more about what happened at Wellesbourne during World War II?
Yeah, that wouldn't be a problem.
Brilliant. And in the meantime, Brock, you're hoping to come over and see Jason too, as well, aren't you, soon?
Yeah, that's definitely in the plan. I'm really trying to focus on saving every dollar I can to hopefully be there in the next year or so, and it's definitely my bucket list to come and see where my great uncle lost his life, and also where he essentially put a footprint down. So I like to retrace his steps and kind of go to the spots where he essentially was training and also kind of having a bit of fun as a tourist. Because this was like essentially a big adventure for these young men, leaving small communities, farming towns, and basically having an opportunity to explore the world.
Putting down their boot print. What a tragic boot print he left behind as well. Listen, thank you so much to Brock and also to Jason. We'll do more on this, I think, in the coming weeks. For now, it's coming up for 10:30.